if we want to do what's best for students, we have to take the brave step, and that's where adults come into play. They need to be willing to look at things differently, look at students not as something to kind of move along the system, but as a untapped potential. In order to be successful, there are systems and people in power need to get behind it. They need to see it. Maybe they need to feel it. They need to come into a classroom where they can actually experience what it is that students are doing and how this can relate to their classes. When school officials, when parents, when businesses, these partners all understand that we're in it to the same thing, there is a path forward. Once you see it in action, you talk to the students, there's no way you can't not do it.
Hello and welcome to the Future is Clear, Teach Like It's 2045 webcast series. My name is Scott Carr from CESA 2. Today's topic area is empowering your students through true career-connected learning. Joining us today is Michelle Grajkowski, the Senior Director of Business and Education Partnerships at WMC, and we'll find out what that is, but WMC Foundation, and Joel Coyne, a business and marketing teacher at Prairie East and West High School in Wisconsin. Michelle's work includes leading engaging hands-on programs such as Wisconsin Business World to connect students with real-world opportunities and to champion the belief that business is a force of good. In addition, Michelle collaborates with industry and community leaders to help students build skills, see the possibilities in their own backyards. Joel has spent 15 years rethinking how schools prepare students for life after school. He founded the Business Leadership Academy and the Marketing Academy in the Sun Prairie School District, obviously, and connects classrooms to the community. Dedicated to student empowerment and experiential learning, Joel has led over 100 student projects tackling real-world problems and was named the 2026 Wisconsin Teacher of the Year. Congratulations, Joel. Well deserved. After I met you a few weeks back, I'm like, I got to dig into this a little bit, and sure enough, what a great opportunity to have someone like yourself on the pod, along with you, Michelle. But Teacher of the Year, that is really, really outstanding. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you bet. As this pod will probably come out in a few weeks or this next month, we're moving towards the end of the school year. Joel, tell me a little bit. What's your feeling like right now? Are you the type that looks like, wow, the end is in sight? Or do you go, dang, I wish we had more school?
Listen, I would be lying if I said that. I think every teacher is a little bit like, summer's coming. Some of us have a countdown. I don't. But listen, we're all teachers, and it is a lot of work, right? It's exhausting. And so we very much value summer and looking forward to that. But there's also so much that we still have to do this last quarter that I'm really excited about where we're at and where we're headed. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, that's good. Good to know. And Michelle, you work year round. You don't have a season like us.
No, and we have a summer camp that's coming up. So yeah, we just keep rocking through the school year and into the summer. So and actually we're heading to BPA, Business Professionals of America, to their national conference in May. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
Nice, great. Well, to kind of kick us off here, tell me a little bit about how did you get where you're at? Joel, let's start with you. How did you find yourself in the world of education?
Yeah, so it's a non-direct route is the way I'll say it. I graduated from UW-La Crosse with a marketing degree, and I thought that was going to be my path. I graduated in 2007, and I started getting into some project management at a local business here in the Dane County area, and it was okay. I was like, I like the idea, I like parts of it, but sitting in a desk was not for me. It didn't give me the same interaction, same satisfaction that classrooms do. And so at that time, I started actually coaching swimming, one of my kind of passions. And in that time, I realized I really like working with young people. I feel like that's where I belong. 2008 crisis, recession hit. I lost my job, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise, right? I was like, this path where I was going, I like aspects of it, but I really like working with young people. And so I took it as an opportunity to pivot, went back to school, got my teaching certificate, and then have jumped into the teaching world and never looked back, right? And so 15 years later, I am now teaching all kinds of different classes. I think I've taught just about every class that has ever been offered. and really start to title into some new learning experiences where students get to have the experience of actually doing something with a business or an organization. That real authentic learning experience cannot be replicated in classroom. It has to be happening with those community partners. And so 5 years ago, we launched the Business Leadership Academy. And shortly after that, we also launched the Marketing Academy. And both are modeled off the same idea where students get to be empowered and have that firsthand experience. And it's been amazing. I'm just going to tell you, the community loves it. The students love it. The parents love it. It's been a winner. So really like where we're at and where we're headed.
Nice. Nice. We're going to learn a lot more about that. That's at the heart of our pod today. So Michelle, how about you? How'd you get where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, Joel, you are my hero, and I'm so excited to be on the podcast with you because what you're doing in your classroom should be replicated like all across the country. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And Scott, thanks for having me come too. I'm really excited to be part of this group. So I got into my role in a very unconventional way as well. So I'm an entrepreneur. So I still own and run my literary agency. But starting a business, especially an unconventional one here in the state of Wisconsin, there's only like 5 agents in the whole state. It was a really interesting experience because I was told no a lot. I shouldn't have been able to start my business here. I shouldn't have been able to be in Madison and not New York, and I listened to all the no's and I said, you know what, I can do it. So that is where I'm so excited to work for the WMC Foundation. So WMC is actually Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. We are the State Chamber of Commerce and also the state's largest manufacturing association. So back in 1982, a group of our business leaders got together and they wanted to find a way to help bring business into the classroom and to help enhance business education. So they formed our foundation, which we'll talk about later. But basically, the long story short is I actually get to work with about 6,000 students throughout the school year, all across the state of Wisconsin, and nationally, with organizations like FBLA and Business Professionals of America. But my favorite part is I get to have a microphone to talk about unconventional career paths, entrepreneurism, ways to bring business into the classroom. I work closely with the teachers, so my job at the foundation is to be that connector between industry and the classroom. So I'm very lucky to have this role.
Nice, nice. And you're great at what you do.
Oh.
I can tell that from the first time we met. Love your enthusiasm. We need more people like you in our state. So nice job.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, you bet. So as we kind of move into the pod, I always lead with the question of, and based off of our students just not really engaging in our current educational system. So I want to start with you, Joel. Why do we need to see a shift in our educational system?
Yeah, the thing that I think we're seeing a lot of is that engagement is the number one question to answer, right? Students are, we've got a wide variety. Some are really struggling right now to figure out where they fit in this world, right? To be frank, and there's a lot of identity development that happens right at this critical age of, I'll go back to even to middle school and now into high school. There's such a development of identity, and the way that we can really kind of lean into that and hopefully help the students along, because what we want is them to be successful after high school, is to provide opportunities that allow them to have the freedom to discover themselves, to engage in the curriculum, but in active ways, in engaging ways, in ways that are going to feel authentic to both who they are and to where they're going. And part of that is just exploration, right? You can't close doors until you at least know what's on the other side. So there's a little bit of pushing, but then there's also allowing the opportunity for those students to do it. The way that I look at it is if you are going to be really trying to go into a route, right? The way that you do that is to explore it, right? To be curious, to be thoughtful and seeing how you fit in that place. And so as teachers, I think engagement is the key, whatever the field or content may be, and figuring out how do we connect this to their lives so that they can see themselves in whatever situation it may be. And that's really figuring out how to unlock that will hopefully transform student lives across the state, across the country, across the world. And that's really what we got to get after.
Yeah. Wow. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, so from the state chamber perspective, our members are always talking about workforce, as being one of the biggest issues that they're facing, especially when we look at um, the demographics in Wisconsin and across the country, frankly, where the birth rate is declining. We're having less people to enter into the workforce. So, how do we get the students engaged? And so that's where our programming really comes in, because we're really trying to teach the students not just business, and entrepreneurship, but more so like the soft skills that the employers are looking for, like the communication, collaboration, that entrepreneurial spirit, things like that. And that's where I really see, education fitting so nicely in. So just seeing what Joel is doing in the classroom and bringing business in, or like some of the programs that we're running, like our one-day programs or our contests, we're trying to give students that opportunity to really experience what business can be and what it shouldn't be. Actually, we just ran a program this last week for middle schoolers. And one of the middle school girls, I was going through the whole opening and she's like, yeah, but what if I don't want to go into business? Like, I don't want to do business, and I was like, okay, so I could have taken that, just been like, whatever. But I actually spun it and I said, you know what, no matter what you do, no matter what career path you take, business is going to be in it. So if you're a nurse, you're working in healthcare, which is a business. If you're a teacher, you're working in an educational system, which is a business. No matter what you're doing, it's a business. So just come here and communicate and collaborate. And those are the skills that are going to take you into the future. So,
yeah, good stuff. I never really thought about it until I started, myself in education and connecting students that I was working with to different careers and workforce opportunities. But that entrepreneurial kind of mindset and thinking is advantageous for everybody. Just to be able to understand how things work, how it functions is really a benefit. So, all right, so let's dive in. Joel, congratulations on being named that 2026 Wisconsin Teacher of the Year. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And you identify saying that you spent the last 15 years rethinking how schools prepare students for life in high school. So I'm really curious as to, what is that fundamental difference? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Good question. So, early on in my career, there was the idea of, teachers would say, something like, "Trust me, this is going to be important in your life," right? It's the idea like, "Hey, this is important. Listen to me now. I'm going to give you all this wisdom, and you just have to believe me." And students, understandably so, would have this kind of skeptical look on their face and be like, "Okay, dude," right? And what we're realizing is like, you can say it, but how is that going to land? How is that going to actually make an impact? And so saying it and even doing some like creative things within the classroom get you so far.
Yeah.
What we really want students to be able to do is to be able to make the connections themselves, right? We want them to be able to see how they fit in, where their voice is valuable, where their perspective is valued, and they get a chance both to take that leap, but also it's a safe space where they can fail, they can learn, they can grow, and that's the place to do it, right? School is about learning, it's about growing, it's about developing those skills. And so I really think like if we flip it from like here's the right answer to here, let's question them, how are you thinking, what is your process, what is your critical thoughts here, why are the decisions that you make, right? That the thinking process is far more valuable in wherever they're going to go. It could be business, but it could be anything, right? If they're going to go into the medical field, the thought process, the critical thinking, those soft skills and durable skills that Michelle was talking about, those are the things that we really need to be teaching. So how do you get there? The model that we've started to really implement and run in with in Sun Prairie is the partnership with the businesses and the organizations, so that students have that agency, so that students have the ownership. And I'll tell you what, it's wild what they can do. When you give students real work, they're going to rise to the occasion because nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to do anything less than their best, especially when they know that it matters, right? When we know something matters, just as humans, we're going to be putting our best foot forward. And there's going to be growth, right? And so, but it flips the model a little bit. As a teacher, I'm not in the front of the room lecturing or giving, these like very clear, like, write this down, write this down. Instead, it's more of a mentor model, like a coaching model. Let me help you, guide you, but you're in front and I'm in the background support, providing the supports to get you where you want to be. And that's been a mind shift and a system shift. But the results are great. The students love it. I mean, we keep increasing in numbers. Our business partners love it. It's been both from our community, but the outcomes today and the outcomes from our student graduates already are great. They love the program. It gives them a leg up and gives them insight into a career path that they otherwise would not have.
And Joel, I
Yeah.
think you're so totally right. I mean,
Yeah.
when I look back at my college experience, at the UW-Madison, the classes that I remember are the ones that we did like a hand-on project, like for the Red Cross, where we had to build a PR campaign for them. Like those are the things that stand out. I don't remember what I sat and learned in astronomy 101, but I definitely remember going to the Red Cross, and sitting there and talking to them and figuring out, and it felt important. They never used our campaign, but it felt important to me. So I think you're so right on to bring that experience to the students. It's very smart.
Yeah, and if nothing else, now they have something that they can put on their resume or their college application, their LinkedIn page that they can point to that has it's not theoretical anymore. Here is what I did. Here's what I put forward. Here's who I presented to. It's not it's practical skills and also real opportunities. And we students don't need another like here's a hypothetical. No, they want something real. They're craving engagement. They're just not always sure where to find it. And we as schools need to provide those systems and opportunities for the students.
Yeah.
100%. And when you do that and trust them, that's where the magic happens. Because, like in our 1 day programs, the students build a business from the ground up. So they're called mini business worlds, and so we break them into small groups and they elect a CEO, break into production, finance, marketing, create this business. And then they have to present it at the end of the day, like a Shark Tank. But it's so funny because the teachers walk in and they kind of get really nervous, to just give the agency to the students. And we're always like, just trust the process, just watch what's going to happen, because it starts out, they're very quiet and unsure because we mix them up so they're not sitting with their friends. And our regional programs are with students from other schools. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes into it, when they're in their team, they are figuring out high level finance. They're figuring out how to build a product. They're coming up with innovative ideas and they present it. And the teachers are like, mind blown, because I feel like sometimes in education, we feel like we have to spoon feed and to sit there and to guide and to help. But these students, they are so primed to do so much. And when you give them the freedom and the creativity and what you're doing in your classroom, Joel, to let them just work with adults that are, outside of the building, that's where the true magic really happens.
And I'm just going to add one last thing. It is like, it is not just some students. Like in our class, we don't have a prerequisite. It's not there's not a thing that you have to do. We take all students. And guess what? Students, no matter where they're coming from, are able to succeed when they get that opportunity. It's like it's an unlocking of magic where, oh, now I get to see myself. It's going back to that identity. I see myself in a different way, a potential. I am more than, just whatever I had thought before this class, before this opportunity. And that long-term effect, oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Literally. That's what we tell the students too. I mean, because when we are breaking them up and we pull the CEOs, we have a CEO meeting, and it's a huge lesson in leadership, and we tell the students, like, you know what, you have no preconceived notions about the student sitting at this table, and so we have so many impact stories where the students that sit in the classroom and do nothing when they come to business world and they have a leader that just says, can you help me build this? All of a sudden they're building a project. And I have, oh my gosh, the number of stories I have from teachers. I had one teacher actually cry because she's like, I've been trying everything I can to get the student to do something. And look, if he's building it, not only did he build the prototype, he presented it. But again, when you give students these opportunities to get outside of themselves and to get outside of their normal structure, that is literally where it can be so life-changing.
Big time. You speak, Michelle, as you talk about it, you're talking about that self-efficacy by teachers. And it's like, we know that is one key factor in student success. And so my question to you, Joel, would be this. Obviously, you grew yourself into these kind of risk-taking approaches within your environment, your classroom, and you probably had that same situation happen where it kind of you saw it take off right in front of you. How how did you get yourself there in relationship to, kind of experimenting, going deeper, continuing to go even deeper? Because some of the work that we do, or I've been doing with teachers, is exactly what you're doing in classrooms. But to get them to trust themselves to do something different takes a little bit of work, takes some time, but it kind of takes some guts to move forward. How did you do it?
Yeah, and one is it's not just me, but I'll back up actually a little bit. So, you know, one of my earlier classes that I taught in my career was we called it career workshop. It is it's designed about like what do you want to do after high school, and one of the big units is how do you get a job, right? And so we'll do an application, we'll have them make a resume, a cover letter, but the ultimate thing is doing a mock interview, right? And I would partner with local business people and say, hey, can you come in and spend a morning interviewing our kids, um, and or just give them some feedback, and it's a good practice before they actually have to go out there. And these at the time were ninth grade, right? And so first job, right? They may have done babysitting or mowing lawns or little things around there, but this almost the vast majority never had a real job, so to say. But they would show up, they'd dress up, they would have their resume, their application, the cover letter, and they'd be nervous. And actually, that those nerves were the best sign because it meant they cared. It meant that when they are showing up, they wanted to do well because they were going to be talking about themselves and they were proud about who they are and they're proud about what they did. And in the entire class, that one day was my favorite day of the year because and it wasn't about me because it was about putting the students in situations where they got to shine. And so taking that, we wanted to build on it, right? The authenticity, the ability to put students out there, the ability to connect with businesses, that was the key, right? And so as a district, there was a team of us. We started to look at different models, and the academy model is one that we stumbled across, and we're like, yeah, this is the way, right? This is something we can do, and we can do it well. And so we started kind of like thinking through, developing and building it. And not gonna lie, I still need a lot of district support, right? So from the district office standpoint, they need to buy in, and provide structural, safety and funding and all that. From a building level perspective, the principals need to buy in, because the scheduling is a little bit different. There's a little bit more risk. Like we just have to be thoughtful about how we do this. And so we got together and we built a team that said, yes, we know that this is valuable. We think it can make a difference. We're going to pilot it. Unfortunately for us, we piloted it at the start of COVID. So we did it Zoom, which not ideal. And yet it was still a success, right? That first year we had 20 students, 5 partners, and the students, which for teachers out there that taught through COVID, you get black screens and no talking, right? It's like, oh, talking to the wall, and it's impossible. And in this class, 75% had their screens on. Almost everybody would show up on a regular basis. And then the work that they did was beyond, right? It was like, I didn't know what to expect. So we started here and we're like, I think this is a good, healthy project. And then they take it even further. And that was the aha moment. Like, yes. And now when we get back in person, let's see where we can really put some fuel on this. And that was unlocking it. So we started with the Business Academy. Every year we try to grab in new partners, new projects, new opportunities. That started taking off, and we added the Marketing Academy as well. Similar idea, just trying to do it with a little bit more of a marketing focus. And same idea, like we just bring in more partners. The projects, we give them to students, and then the students run with them. It takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of trust. It is unique. Luckily for me, and I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, this is a co-taught model. So I co-teach with an English teacher, and the English teachers that I have taught with are phenomenal. Like they lean into this. It's just different. It's the applying of English in a business setting. But what a better way to like apply their skills and practice their skills than in real world situations, right? We're going to actually write the email. We're going to write the agenda. We're going to make the presentation. We're not just writing a report that's never going to, go anywhere. This is where it is, and it's practical skills.
That's some really good stuff. Michelle, when we first met, and you talked and said, "Yeah, I know a guy. I know a guy." And I can imagine. Talk a little bit, Michelle, about some of the things that you're doing, but also weave in there, if you would, the benefit of having someone like Joel in schools, so it's much more in depth, more more successful.
Sure. So I feel really blessed because I mean, my job is really four pillars, so I work obviously with the students directly. I work with the teachers directly. I work with our business community through our board meetings and through other events. And then I work with our chamber community, and so I'm able to be the marrier between all of those great organizations and groups, and so I feel like I'm kind of like the tabletop to all of the pillars to the table. And so I get to, my favorite part is I get to hear all the best practices that are happening all across the state.
Mm.
So I get to hear about fantastic people like Joel. I get to hear about wonderful like workforce organizations like they're doing up in Wausau, and I get to hear about Oliva Strom and what they're doing, with their Cardinal Manufacturing. And so
Mm.
then I'm able to like bring that around, and talk to the partners about it. So for me, I feel very blessed, to have that lens. So I spend a lot of time nurturing each one of my pillars just to make sure, that I am hearing and I'm in the know so that I can connect, like, so if Joel needs a business partner, he can reach out to me and I'll be like, oh yeah, you need to talk to so-and-so, or if a chamber's like, hey, how do I get into the schools? I know the business teacher that I need to get them in with, and so, I have that unique lens being the state chamber, and being able to partner with the people. But so anyway, so my love for this is really being able to talk to you, Scott, in the CESA level, to talk to Joel and to be like, you two need to talk. So I just feel like Mary Poppins. I kind of
Network.
fly in, fly out. I get to hear great things, and then I just get to like jump in with my umbrella and fly out, and you guys do your magic, So I just get to be a little part of it.
Good
I'm going to
stuff.
add
Yeah.
in. Can I add real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Go
Earlier,
ahead.
like I was teaching, I've taught several classes, like I said earlier, and I brought my students to Mini Business World, and it is awesome. Like I had a student, I mean, it must have been 12 years ago. I happened to bump into, and they talked about Mini Business World as like, oh yeah, we got to do this thing and build this thing. And like, they still talk about it. So the collaboration, the connection from business to classroom, right? And the work that Michelle and her team is able to do, like that brings it to life, right? And it gives it that extra edge that really helps elevate what we're doing and what we're trying to get to our students to learn and take away. And so it's really fun to have that collaboration.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate that.
Michelle, you want to give a little more depth on that program that you guys run?
Sure, yeah. So, like I said, back in 1982, our business leaders got together and they formed the foundation. Our flagship program is our summer camp. So, anyone listening, if you have any students that are incoming freshmen through outgoing seniors, please send them to our summer camp. We cap it at 100 students. It's probably one of the most impactful things, that I've been a part of in my entire life, because we're not looking for just like the leaders, like your DECA and FBLA presidents. What we're really looking for are emerging leaders or students that maybe don't really know what direction they want to be moving in. We've had a lot of success stories from students that are failing out of school come to camp, and it changes their whole friend group and outlook, and so really that camp, it's kind of what we do in our mini business world. The students are building a fictitious business from the ground up. But through it, though, we do manufacturing tours one day on Monday afternoons. We do competitions each night. So they're doing a commercial competition. My favorite night is Tuesday night. We do an etiquette dinner. So our CEO, from Kurt Bauer from WMC, comes and MCs the event. We bring in CEOs and executives from all over the state to host a table. We mix the students up from students from other companies, so they're working together. They have to learn how to butter their bread and listen to speakers. We bring in a keynote. We turn it into like an actual luncheon, like what it is. So, because that was my most stressful part. And I remember my first business lunch and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I even talk to someone? So
Right.
we want to make the kids as uncomfortable as possible, because through that, they leave so empowered, and so Tuesday we do a big trade show event, but it's such a wonderful time for the students. We tell them to try, if they love marketing, try finance. We want them to feel uncomfortable and to try new things. So with that, then we have our entire school year, so we do our 1-day mini business worlds that Joel was just talking about, where it's a 1-day bite. And so we travel the state. We run about 50 of those throughout the school year. But we also partner with the business community. So we have a quick trip innovation contest, where students are tasked with coming up with a brand new product idea for Quick Trip, and they create a marketing video and submit it to us. So what's cool is a lot of teachers are putting that into their classroom curriculum now. So we've been getting a lot of entries through that, through the classroom. Or it's a great extra credit project, for teachers, or a sub project, so it's a great thing, great way to just put business in your classroom. We also have a business as a force for good contest, which, Joel, I'm so excited that you work with the English department, because that's where we've actually, with my background in publishing, that's where that came from. I wanted to try to figure out a way to reach students that aren't in business classes, but also like to write, so we have students, they're tasked to find a business doing good things in their communities, and then to write about it, and to submit the essay to us. And so again, it's a great way to break out of the traditional business classroom and to break into social studies and English curriculums, because we have a lot of English teachers that put that into their course curriculum now. So we've been seeing a lot of entries grow that way through those departments as well.
Nice. Nice. Well, what we're hearing is that there's a lot of opportunity out there for us, and that's really, really a good thing. But so let me ask Joel this. You talk about having over 100 student projects that you've done, probably more, right? A lot of those really were real world type problems. Describe one of them in regards to what that looks like, start to finish. How does the classroom assignment transfer into that real world solution and actually matter to the student so they can see relevance?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Let me take you through one that we're doing actually today. So this morning we've got a group that is working with Miracle Field of Dane County, and we're trying to bring a Miracle Field to Sun Prairie. And to do so, we've kind of got the plans, we've got the renderings, we've got ideas on what it's going to look like, but we need money. And so students are working in conjunction with their client, who's part of Sun Prairie School District, and putting forward, here's our prospectus, here's a presentation. How do we approach businesses and try to elicit funding, right, for this thing? And we have a meeting coming up that is going to be asking for some big dollars that students are going to be leading, right? And so if you can imagine this big funding project, and you're going to put it in the hands of students, is a little bit nerve-wracking, right? Not many people would be comfortable doing that. So we're very fortunate to being able to have students at. So anyways, so today's work through, right, coaching session was like, okay, the meeting is on the calendar now. Now we got to really make sure it's all buttoned up. And so we are going back through the presentation, doing notes, doing tweaks, looking at the prospectus, editing, trying to do some forecasting models. Also, they can be the ones to stand up in front of the room and actually give the presentation, right? And we have no idea how it's going to go in terms of, yes, no, maybe later, something like that. But the empowerment that the students are doing is wild, right? I'm just going to tell you, it's so cool to see the students. And really what's cool is what they're asking questions. They're being curious. They're having critical thinking. They're working on their communication skills, all the things that we want. And also because the expectations are so high, they're rolling with it, right? They are taking it and figuring out, how can we make this better? It's going to be fun because it's going to be next week. And we've got a full week of kind of building them up, testing it out, giving it trial runs, and then off they go. It's not just a class presentation. This one's in front of the CEO. Yep. We're gonna ask for some real money. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But that's a day in the life. It's just coaching from the back end so that they can be successful. Nice. Did you consider this? Have you thought about that?
So Joel, how did you find that opportunity? Did they come to you, or how did you find that?
Yeah, that was so it's through our athletic director is kind of tied into that and really being the one that to push this forward to bring a field in Sun Prairie. And so we had done some earlier work with him and the athletic department last semester. And because of that, right, because of the good work, it spills over and he's like, well, we've got more things coming. What do you think about doing this? Yes is the answer, right? We will always, maybe not always, but like we lean into those and we try to figure out how we can make it work within our curriculum. So by doing good work here, it opens new doors, and that has been consistent. We worked with, in Sun Prairie, we've got the business education partnership, and we'll go into there and we'll do some work here, but that can open up all kinds of opportunities. We worked with Sun Prairie Utilities, local utility company, water and gas and electric, or not gas, but they wanted our students to make an AI chatbot. And so, okay, well, how do they do that? How do they frame it in a way that gives the clients what they need? Safety standards are met, expectations. And so there were so many pillars that went into it. And I'll tell you what, when they presented again in front of the clients, they're blown away, right? They got to see a fully operational, within parameters that they set, able to run with it. And so you just take, through the relationships, right? It's just networking. We've heard that before. But if you do a good job in one area and you build a good reputation, sometimes it starts to snowball, and that's kind of where we're at. And that's where we get more and more of our projects is just word of mouth.
Yeah, good stuff. One of the things when I want to get in and work with schools and districts, and obviously with teachers, one of the focuses is the student experience. I constantly am saying the student experience has to change. And it sounds like you've really built that culture over time. One of the things that we notice with the work when we shift into this type of a structure within classrooms is that sometimes the students don't want that change. They're used to the conditioning of school, you providing the information, just tell me what I need to do and how I'm supposed to regurgitate it back, that kind of stuff. Did you come across any of that as you've shifted? Now, obviously, you've been doing this for a long time, but talk a little bit about, do you see that? Do you see some students coming in going, I just like the old school way? And if so, I think what we really need to hear is, how do you get past that with students?
Yeah, 100%, right? Especially by the time they get to me, they're juniors and seniors, and they've been very well conditioned through school. Here's how school happens. Here's how it operates. And across, I don't think Sun Prairie is unique in this, but there is absenteeism is rising. Tardiness is rising. All of these chronic problems. Like if they're not in the building, then how are they going to learn? And they're not seeing the value. And so all of those exist, especially when they come in, and they're also used to maybe just like different experiences where the expectations just look differently. And so what a presentation in a class in front of your peers looks, you can kind of wing it, or at least they have experience being able to wing it, being able to present in front of, a president or a CEO or managers, things like that, owners. That's different. And so early on, there's a couple of things that we do. And the first and foremost is creating the culture, right? Culture is the number one thing. And how do we do that? There's some systematic things that we do, but one of the big things is celebrations, right? We celebrate our wins. We try to build everybody in together so that it is a collaborative. So it's kind of looking at each other. And every Friday we do Friday shout outs and we bring in treats, and we have a traveling trophy. And so it's like creating the community is really important. The second thing that we do is we give a lot of feedback. And I think because of the nature of our class, we have the time and ability, and thankfully another teacher, to give feedback. But feedback, as we talk about, is a gift. And we give an analogy like, if you're an athlete and your coach stops giving you feedback, that's not a good thing, right? That's a bad thing, right? That means that they gave up on you, and we're not going to do that. So we're going to continue to give you feedback on your whatever it is, your presentation, your work, your communication, and you're going to get a lot of it. And that's a gift for you. And so framing it in such a way we're trying to build you up, and we will say that 1,000 times. We want the best of you. We're going to continue to give feedback, and support you and structure you. And that's that building of, we have high standards, but we're going to give you the supports, and we're going to give you the feedback, and we're going to give you the structure and opportunities to be successful. Like that combination, along with the celebrating of the wins, and it comes, where we're at. It's not just coming from me. It's like the peers shout out each other, right? That creates the culture, that creates a community where everybody starts to kind of lean in, and then also challenging them to lean on, and where do you want to grow, right? How many teachers or how many students are asked, hey, where do you want to get better at? What do you want to grow at? Wow. Right? Those conversations, just in the nature of how normal classes work, just don't happen. But because of our structure, we are able to have those. We're able to have those one-on-ones and saying like, well, how do you think it went? Where do you want to grow? What can we do to support you? Those one-on-one conversations build relationships, but it builds their track going forward. And that's what's fun.
Really good stuff. And you can, I can just feel it from you, Joel, that you stick to it, that you see the long range benefits to this for our students. So hats off to you. Great work. Obviously, that's why you're Teacher of the Year. I mean, this is exactly what we need to be doing in our classrooms. Michelle, a question for you is this. You've been a part of the workforce economic development for quite some time, obviously. And talk to us about the lagging skills that we see in our youth that are exiting our K-12 system and even our 2 and 4 year systems. And work like this within our classrooms really needing to be done, so we don't see those lagging skills, right? But what do you see as the impact on our economy and our workforce when this type of work is actually happening within our school systems and our classrooms?
Yeah, I think exactly what Joel is doing is so needed, because what we've seen from a workforce standpoint is that it's hard to get students, as Joel even just alluded to it, I mean, coming to school, so students will start a job and then they just won't show up. Like they're not learning the skills that, like, hi, you need to give 2 weeks notice, and they're job hopping, and they're leaving, and they're not communicating. And, so we're seeing a lot of those skills, in the workforce happening. And so the more that we can bring it into the classroom and bring those durable skills and to teach them the importance, the why, I think that that's what we're lacking, is the why. Students are coming out and they don't really understand the why and why it's important, and that's what I try to tell the students at all of our programs. Even if you're working at McDonald's, or like fast food or something, those jobs are so important, and what you're doing is important. And I think if we teach the students that this is important and this is valuable, and Joel, you're doing that with every single one of your lessons, they know the why. Like, you're meeting with the CEO because you're really trying to get money, because we really want to bring this here, and they're understanding the value and the reason why they're doing it, so that's the one thing that I wish that was coming out of the classroom more, was the actual why and the importance. And also, like Shelby, my colleague, and I talk a lot about it. It seems like this generation, they're more reluctant to try new things. They're more reluctant to get up and do presentations. And that's not as a whole, it just seems like, but that seems like a movement, that we're seeing. Like, there's a lot more anxiety and fear. And there's a lot of, it's okay if you don't want to present, you don't have to, happening. And so we're not giving the students the full opportunity to just try new things. And so, Joel, what you're doing, in the launch program, and there's so many other like programs throughout the state, where we're actually giving students the opportunity. We're giving them the why. We're giving them the chance to try new things. We're giving them a chance not to say no, because it's so easy just to leave apathetic, so we want to, one of the workshops we're talking about launching out at FBLA is it's cool to care. We want kids to feel like it's cool to care. Like, it's, especially at that middle school level, that's where we run into a lot of it, like when we're running middle school programming, where the kids they're too cool to get up and do a presentation, or they'll just make light of it, or just make it into a joke because they feel so uncomfortable. So how do we show them that, no, it's cool to actually care about school. It's cool to care about what you're getting involved in. So anyway, Joel, so what you're doing, it's super helpful, because teaching the students those durable skills, the timeliness, the communication, the presentation, the entrepreneurial spirit, all of that is what our workforce is looking for. I always tell the students, the overwhelming thing that I hear from our members is that we will train the right person for the job. Like I was actually the Quick Trip Distribution Center. I was talking to their plant, to the person who runs the distribution center. And he said at one point when they were opening up that distribution center in DeForest, they had so many applications come in that it was actually harder to get accepted for a position there than it was to get accepted into Harvard, because there were so many people that wanted to work there. And he said they ended up turning away a lot of the people that actually had the skill set because they weren't the right DNA for the job. They didn't match Quick Trip's culture, which is that team player, and having the right attitude. He said he'd rather hire someone with 80% of the skill set, but 100% of the attitude, because they can train the right person. So what you're doing is so important, in the classroom, everyone listening, because if you're training that mindset is going to take this kid so much further than just having like the actual hard skills.
Can I give a quick story?
Yeah.
So listen, every teacher can probably relate to this a little bit. Day one, I had a student, and he came in and he gravitated towards the back of the room, back corner, and he just kind of sat there. Right. And he'd hang out with his friends. Like he wasn't unsocial. He was just like, school wasn't it. Right. Student second. I'm here. I will pass. I will graduate. I'll move on. But I'm not going to put my best because that's risky. Right. I don't see myself as a student. We did this project in his first semester and we partnered with our education foundation, which allows people to write grants on behalf of organizations. And so usually it goes to teachers, but we kind of flipped the model. We had our students partner and reach out to a local nonprofit. And this student got on a team and he and his team reached out to a local nonprofit, figured out what their need was. It was to organize this event and they wrote a grant for it. And in December, we had this big ceremony with big checks around, is your grant going to be awarded or not? And we brought in cameras and made a big thing. And the students, dressed up for the occasion. And lo and behold, his team, their grant was awarded. So awarded over $1,200. And he stood there with his team and he was just beaming. And he came off the stage and he said to me, hey, can I break a school rule? I said, well, what school rule are you going to break? Can I call my mom? He was so proud that he saw himself as a student who was giving back to his community that the first person he wanted to tell was his mom. These opportunities are ones that unlock that potential.
Yeah.
He sees himself differently today because of that. His identity is changed because he now sees himself as far more capable.
Wow.
You can't replicate that in a classroom.
No.
Oh, and Joel, what a gift for him too, because now he sees himself in a career path that he might not have seen himself in. Like now, who knows, maybe he'll end up running a nonprofit someday or figuring out what it is that he's super engaged in because of that feeling that you were able to give to him in the classroom. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, really connecting the student to purpose connects the student to the system itself, and you're doing amazing things. As we get kind of towards the end of the pod, I do have a quick question for you though, Joel. In the work that I try to support teachers with and move forward, we try to do your work in every single classroom, every grade level, and it's a hard lift. Give us why we should shift to this type of engagement within all of our classrooms. Give us the reasoning behind it. Give us how do we get there? How do we convince people?
The experience, like the story I just shared, that's not an isolated incident. That's not a one-off. That's not an exception to the rule. That is the norm. The amount of stories I have like that, where students start to see themselves differently and take the opportunity and run with it, or I've got hundreds. If we want to see change, right? If we want to do what's best for students, we have to take the brave step, and that's where adults come into play. Adults need to take that brave step. They need to be willing to to look look at things differently, look at students differently, look at students not as a, just something to kind of move along the system, but as a untapped potential. And there is untapped potential there. In order to be successful, there are systems and people in power need to get behind it. They need to see it. Maybe they need to feel it. They need to come into a classroom where they can actually experience what it is that students are doing and how this can relate to their classes. We need to see businesses see, oh, this may be a high school student, but actually the level of quality of work that they're able to do can surpass my expectations, like tenfold. When school officials, when parents, when businesses, these partners all understand that we're in it to the same thing, right? There is a path forward. We just need to get more people to see it, to believe it, because honestly, once you see it in action, you talk to the students, there's no way you can't not do it.
Yeah.
You just see the opportunity and the change that can happen.
Nice. And it's not super hard. It takes a lot of the pieces of the puzzle to come into play. But well said, we definitely need it for our students. We definitely need to change that student experience. Appreciate it. All right, final question. As you know, in our tag, it's teach like it's 2045. I'm curious, let's start with Michelle. What do you see education looking like in 2045, or what should it look like?
Sure. So I hope that it's very hands-on, like what we're doing, and I hope the mindset set kind of shifts so that we're making sure the students are life ready right from the start. So we actually do a really cool program. It's one of my favorite programs of the year with the Lincoln Academy. We actually run a mini business world with their first graders. So like a first grader, like I have to walk in and be like, so we're going to learn a new word today, entrepreneur, and then to have them all say it. And now we're going to learn about marketing. What's that? But
Yeah.
it's so mind blowing, just to like walk through the pillars of the business and to teach them in first grade. So the Lincoln Academy is doing such a great job with that right from the beginning. They're in 4K putting all of the different career clusters into the classroom, and helping nurture that. So by the time the students are out of middle school and they're entering high school, with it's just part of their DNA. They understand, all the different career clusters and they can see themselves. So they're just preparing for their futures, and they're getting life ready. So that's what I really hope is that we continue to do what Joel's doing in the classroom to bring that down into the younger grades, so that the students it's just who they are, and I think the earlier we start it, the more that why is there, why they're in school, why am I here? Why is this important? Why does it matter that I'm in third grade and I'm learning math, and it's not just to your point, Joel, because you need to, and oh, trust me, this is going to make sense when you get into algebra, you need to know this, but it's actually getting them to see the relevant, to see why it's relevant to their lives. So that's what I really hope, is that we can just keep continuing what you're doing here at that high school level and bringing it down into those young grades, because their minds are wide open and they don't have the no gene and in first grade, and so they're ready, they're ready to build that robot and to sell that robot. So I think that's my hope.
Nice. Joel, how about you?
Yeah, the hot topic of the day is around AI, and everybody has been looking about how AI is going to change the world, how it's going to change education, how it's there's all kinds of wild theories, and actually my thought is a little bit different. I think the even more important, the thing that we're going to be teaching is the human element, right? The durable skills. Can we be critical thinkers? Can we be communicators? Can we be collaborators? Those skills are going to become even more important and more critical to success in the future. And the way that we learn those is through human to human interactions, right? And that's where schools can play that role of like, are we creating opportunities for students to learn, to practice these durable skills that are going to be the difference maker in their life? We need to continue to hold high standards, but we need to do it with this support system not an enforcer. We're not lowering the standards or making exceptions. We're building them up and trying to be coaches, trying to be mentors so that those skills become who they are, that allow them to be able to go into whatever the world looks like in 2045, which we know is going to look very different than today, right? But we also know that those durable skills are going to be core. At the end of the day, it starts and ends with a human.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Appreciate it. I really appreciate both of you joining today. If somebody'd like to reach out and get in touch with you, how could they do that?
So I've got a LinkedIn profile, Joel Coyne. Feel free to connect and shoot me a message there. I've also got my email, jfcoyne at sunprairieschools.org. That'd be the best way.
Nice. Michelle?
Yeah, also I do have a LinkedIn, so that's a great way to connect through my email, Grajkowski at wmc.org, and also our website, wibusinessworld.org. It has a lot of great information and resources as well.
Nice. Well, thanks again, Michelle, Joel. Keep up the great work that you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. This has been a really fun experience being able to talk about what's happening in education today and hopefully kind of build in the future that we're looking for.
Yeah, thank you.
And as we depart, remember, the future is clear. Take care, everybody.